What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a great week. We're going to be talking about week 2 here of the NFL, whenever you're watching this. Did want to point out Sheets is gone this week. He's on a golf trip, so hope he's having a great time. And did want to also talk about just sort of an overall look before we get into the slate. But before I do that, I'm going to mention, look, we have great deals out there. We have the NFL 24 code for 24% off the first month. You get all of SaberSim's content, every level of SaberSim we've got on our site. And you get all of Sheets' projections, Goldie's projections, my content, Brody's content, Brandon Cruz for NASCAR, Chan for LOL, all that stuff. And it's a very competitive deal. We're actually charging less than some of the actual SaberSim packages themselves this time. We actually are priced more, but with the discount, it will actually be a little bit less. So did want to mention that we've got some great deals out there for you guys, and we love being partnered with SaberSim. They're absolutely unbelievable company, and just love what they do. And you can see the results, especially as it relates to Sheets, how well he's done with it. So shout out to that. I'm going to start talking through each game here and talk about what I like. I think that mostly there's there's basically 4 games and one team stack that I'm very interested in, but we'll talk about all the plays as we go through it. It's still early in the week, so there's a lot to be determined. Give us a thumbs up when you pop on in here, and we're going to get this thing started going game by game. Starting off with Vegas in Baltimore. I think this is probably a nothing for me. We have Lamar questionable. That's obviously a big piece of news. If Lamar plays, certainly not going to, there are worse plays to make at that kind of ownership. I know he's expensive, but you don't even need to pair him. You could pair him with Flowers if you wanted to. There's going to be 0 ownership there, but you really don't need to even pair him. If you could literally stack them. You could play Lamar alone here, and I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that. I don't think I'm going to get to anything else in this game. I think Henry makes a lot of sense on paper, but there's other running backs I like better. So look, I'm going to include Henry in my pool, but as of right now, he's not, nobody quite makes the priority list for me in this game in general. Just don't really love anything enough. If you wanted to gamble on Devontae Adams, not the worst idea in the world. He could put up a big number, but for me, this game is probably one of the less interesting for DFS purposes, and hopefully for my Ravens, they can find their way back. All right, this game. And again, I think it's a little, I understand that Detroit likes to run the ball, but the Tampa Bay stops the run pretty well. I like the passing side of both parts of this game. This is one of the best games of the week, in my opinion. Totally good with the Baker play. But again, Goff just as much. I don't feel there should be this kind of gap in the ownership. And if it continues that way, to look that way throughout the week, I think you're going to see me pretty heavily on the Goff side of this. So I'm going to say this is one of the best games to stack all the way around. I am probably not going to be getting into the running side of it as much as I am the passing side. If I did, it would probably be Gibbs and White, and probably not Montgomery. But we saw some from Irving last week. I don't feel like it's as clear for me for the running game here. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with running back, because I do really feel like there's a lot of plays out there that are getting some love that I'm just not all that interested in. But as of right now, I'll put Gibbs on the list. We all know the same story every year with Tampa Bay. They're generally good against the run, generally struggle with the pass. We don't know exactly what's going to happen this season because they played Jaden Daniels and Washington their first week, and it's really hard to get a barometer based on that matchup. Love this spot for both these guys, Evans and Godwin. I decided to prioritize Evans here, but I think you could make just as good a case for Godwin, especially on DraftKings, the PPR site, because he's probably going to catch more balls. Evans is going to, have the chance of having the higher ceiling, but he's also 7,500. It's a pretty big difference. Really like both of them. I'm willing to gamble again on Jason. I'm just going to do this so I don't forget. Make sure we have the 10% every week as he's reasonably priced on Jameson Williams. Almost won me all the money on Showdown last week. Really high on him this year. And perception has everybody against, say, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I will go right back. I'm just going to do this so I don't forget. I'm going to end up probably adding more ownership, but this is just don't want to forget these guys. And let's do this, actually. Let's make it like that. I really think this is the game where I'm going to be heavily after. And I am not sure why no one will play Laporta this week. I honestly don't understand it. I think this is a very reasonable play, and he is expensive, and he didn't have a big first game. So what? Move past it, and let's use him here. I think this is a good spot for him. He is expensive, but I could see him just dominating the position and being by far the best on the week. The only issue I have is the price is a little tricky, but I love this game as a full every which way. If I wasn't going to play this game, I also, even if I'm not stacking this game, I want Detroit's defense. We know Baker historically under pressure can make some mistakes. They're cheap enough, and they have some talent on that defensive end. With Hutchinson on the outside rushing Baker, I feel like this is a good spot to go after this. So I'm going to be high on all different aspects of this game. Certainly one of the best games of the week, and I'm going to try to be overweight almost every player in that game, just to be honest. All right, let's move it over to New Orleans and Dallas. All right, this is not a game where I can figure out what I want to do, if anything. As of right now, Zeke, we're going to play him at this kind of ownership. Probably going to let somebody else do it. I'd rather play Jordan Mason, and he's going to be more popular even. But sure, on paper, it makes some sense. You are the number one back, and it feels like you may be able to move the ball in New Orleans. Again, really hard to get a feeling for New Orleans based on them playing Carolina week 1. They look dominant. I'm not sure that that's really going to be the case. So not very interested in this game as a whole. You are going to see me, though, a lot this year. Just try to get – and look, I'm just going to put 10 in as a reminder. I do like the Olave idea this week. And I think that the fact that no one's playing CeeDee Lamb is just always going to be a try to get this. Now, will it be able to even get that percentage? I don't know. I'm just trying to remind myself of the guys that I like that are a little bit contrarian. I know it's not supposed to be the matchup, but CeeDee Lamb has as high a ceiling as anybody. They're playing at home where he's dominant. Indoors in the dome. I love this spot for Lamb. It's just, again, it's going to be hard to get him in with some of the other plays we like out there. Question marks at tight end, not knowing what to do with Ferguson, questionable. So we'll see by the end of the week. If he's out, Schoonmaker obviously is going to be a very strong play. And they looked for Juwan Johnson last week. They did look for Taysom Hill a couple times, but again, hard to get bearings after the first week for them. I'm just going to put a 5 on Taysom Hill because I don't mind that play. I don't know where I'm going to end up with him, but I do think I'll end up with some of them. That's where I'm at right now. Moving over to the Giants in Washington. Okay, I made this very clear the first week. I'm going to be, and he was too cheap, and he's still too cheap. And well, I don't know if he's too cheap. He's got plenty of upside, I guess I would say, at this price. Both these quarterbacks do. So I'm just going to put a little 5 here next to both of them. Daniel Jones, as much as I think he sucks, has the rushing upside to be effective. And I think that we might get to see it a little bit against this really bad Washington defense. I think I'm just going to want to target every game Washington's in. I originally had this written down as I'm adding the Giants as part of it now because I was going to be just focused on the Washington side. But I think we can make a really good case just to get a little game stack in here in Washington. I don't think that Washington's defense is good. The Giants look terrible week 1. So I kind of want some exposure. That exposure is not coming in the form of a running back right now. If I did, I think they may have liked what they saw a little bit with Eckler. Maybe I'll put a little 5 next to him just to remind myself, hey, I actually think this is playable. And I think that there's upside, and he has a different type of upside than Brian Robinson. If they're coming back, they could use him out of the backfield. And I am absolutely open to the fact that Eckler could end up being the main guy, depending on the game flow going forward, not just this week. Malik Neighbors, 5,900. I am absolutely going to be above that. Terry McLaurin, no one's going to want to play him. I'm going to be higher on this. Call it what you will. I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be good. It may take him a year. It might take him a few months, a few games to get under his belt. But I believe in the talent of McLaurin. I like this price. Not the ideal matchup in general, but I just would like to be overweight the games that I'm going to be heavy on and sort of see what happens elsewhere. But not really getting to any of the tight ends right now, but do like both quarterbacks, and I like the Neighbors. I like the McLaurin. It's because it's really hard to find anybody else to pair these guys with and feel comfortable. Even McLaurin after week 1 doesn't feel comfortable. But I'm going to go that perception has gotten a little too out of hand, and that we are going to see Scary Terry back tearing things up pretty soon. No projection on this Indy Green Bay game. I'm trying to figure out what's happening with that, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. Bear with me. Look, every time he plays, Anthony Richardson is in play. Period. End of story. He's got a massive ceiling. We're likely not to see Jordan Love this week. It's going to probably be Malik Willis at 5K. And it's against a shaky defense. I'm probably still not going to go there. But I did want to point out that I'm interested in some Richardson this week. I'll see if I'm able to get to him by the end of it because there's other plays I like a little bit better. But I always want to get some exposure there. We could play roulette with any of the Green Bay receivers. They're all cheap enough. In fact, for right now, maybe I just click a 5 and I go to, where's Dobbs here? Let's go to Dobbs and Watson just to have a little bit of exposure because I think these guys, you're going to see some huge weeks out of them. It's just hard to know which of those weeks those are going to be. The Musgrave Kraft situation, I think it's going to be more Musgrave, but not like overwhelmingly interested in it. And this is a game I could see getting more on as the week goes on. But as of right now, just slightly over on the receivers from Green Bay, maybe slightly over on Richardson by the end of the week. We'll see. But as of right now, not my favorite game, but I would like to get some projections out from them. They should be out a little bit later today. All right, San Francisco in Minnesota. This is another game that I think we could do some business with, as Sheets used to always say. We got Purdy and Darnold. I think I'm much more on the Darnold side, but I don't mind the Purdy side. Minnesota looked great week 1, but there was the Giants. Hard to really know what that means. Darnold looked great. Okay, if I play a quarterback like Darnold, I usually like to double stack him, and not really sure whether I would want to do that in this case though. Again, this is another game that I expect to be above the field on most things. I am going to set Mason right now as a core play. We'll see about McCaffrey later in the week. I'm guessing it looks like he's going to be out, but we don't know for sure. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back and plays. Didn't look like they needed him in week 1. Not getting to Aaron Jones against the San Francisco defense, but I do love the Mason thing, and I might even end up a little bit higher on it than I currently am at the moment. Yeah, again, I just can't quite commit to these quarterbacks when there's so much rushing upside from other guys. I always want to be overweight the top receivers. You're gonna see a common theme in the way that I build all season long, for better or worse. I am going to try to get these high-end receivers in as often as possible. There's too many 35, 40-plus fantasy point games out there that I don't want to leave on the table, and I will spend down and take risks in order to do so. But I would like to get to some Justin Jefferson. I think that both these San Francisco receivers are in a decent spot for how little ownership they're going to get, especially with no McCaffrey. You know what? Let's make this a little bit higher. This is the first look. I'm not going to build based on all these things, but I do think I would like to get overweight Debo, overweight Justin Jefferson, and figure out exactly how much later in the season. Later. But I kind of think it's interesting to play a little bit of Kittle. The expensive tight ends are just getting no love. So I'm just going to put a little reminder to take a look at that. But yeah, this is a game I could definitely see getting on a little bit more, because I'm going to have some Mason anyway. I'm going to have some Samuel. I'm going to have some Jefferson. Just not sure about the quarterbacks yet, just because there's so many quarterbacks with massive rushing upside that I'm not sure I need to play guys I need 3+ touchdowns from in the air. If I get 2 on the ground from a Jaden Daniels or an Anthony Richardson, I think that's the route that I'm sort of looking at for this season. Lamar, all those kind of things. Oh boy. Okay, I don't know what to do here. I'm struggling because I actually took the Chargers over this season. It feels like, okay, they're playing Carolina. They're going to wax them. Just got a feeling that Carolina plays decently in this game for whatever reason. That they look different. I was on Dobbins. I got to the Dobbins in week 1, and I still didn't have a winning week. So that's a little frustrating because he was sub 1% in some tournaments. And I think did he have the best or second best running back week of any player at 4,900 in week 1. I said it before the season. I think he fits into what the Chargers do. I can see this being more of an Edwards game, but I think that, like, especially in passing downs, he just reminds me a little bit of like a poor man's Eckler. Maybe not last year's poor man's. Maybe he's a good Eckler from last year. But I think he's got that talent, the ability to potentially be that guy. So going to probably be overweight him early in the season. Again, it could be the Edwards game, just because they could play from ahead and use him at the goal line. And from what we've seen so far, Carolina can't stop anybody. I'm not sure how true that's going to end up being by the end of the year. I also think Chuba Hubbard, after we were all on him and disappointed in week 1, I think we should get like just a little bit, just so I remember that I actually think he's playable. But not a game I want to stack. None of the receivers standing out for me really at all. I think Deontay Johnson is going to have a better season than he's being projected for, and I'm going to give him, just throw a little 5% his way at the moment. I'll probably change some of this stuff. And then we've got the Palmer and McConkey. I was way on the wrong side of this. If I had McConkey in the last week, I would have come in the top 10, maybe even higher in the millionaire. I think that I'm still going to just ride with it and take a shot. He did get thrown out of the last game, but it was at the end of the game anyway. And I like to be overweight McConkey in general. I mean, this is a team that can throw the ball. I'm just kind of curious, if nobody's going to play any of their receivers, I think I'm just always going to be like a little bit over, but I don't need to go crazy with this one. This ownership feels too high for me for Jatavion Sanders. I'm totally cool with, I love the cheap tight end idea. I'll get him I probably want him around 10% or something like that. But it does feel like at 25, 20% ownership, I might end up just Xing him out and going with different types of builds. Chargers are weak over the middle against the tight ends and historically. So maybe that's the way you'd approach this one. But for me, not overwhelmingly excited about it myself. A lot of ugly games this week, which is weird to say. We just started the season and there's already feels like ugly games. This is one that looked like it could have been an AFC championship showdown, but God, what is happening here? Is this real? What is happening with these ownerships? Did I put the projections over here, not the ownership? No. Hold on. What is going on? Something's broken with these projections. Let me rerun these things. There is no way these quarterback. What is going on here with this flagship ownership? Again, the ownership will straighten out by the end of the week, but this is kind of crazy, and even the projection is kind of crazy. Am I missing something? Look, I have minimal interest in both these guys, but I do have a little bit. I don't have this kind of interest. I don't really know where these projections are coming from. Look, ATN let a lot of people down, and he just almost had a big week and didn't quite get there. Jerome Ford got lucky with the late touchdown. I'm okay with getting dabbles of this, but I'm going to be underweight. If any of these projections are even remotely close, which I know they can't be, I will definitely be underweight. Is this a real number? Come on, guys. What is happening with these projections? I don't know if I'm buying into all this. Jacksonville, they didn't even give up. I know like they had good games out of their top receivers, but like they give up 20 points to Miami in Miami. Why are we loading up here? I don't know. It feels like a little bit overdone. I do like Brian Thomas. And I'm going to be betting on him in the future, but this is not a great matchup. I'll get sprinkles of it. I do like the Cooper. Actually, that's a little high for Cooper. Let's go 10. This would be like the maximum I would want to get from these guys. I really don't think this is that great of a game. And I still think Cleveland's defense is a lot better than people think, just because their offense was so terrible. I think it kind of screwed them up. I think we're going to have a cheap Jordan Akins that's going to be pretty chalky this week. I am totally okay with taking a stab at that. They do look for the tight end, and because basically the first quarterback in history to make 15 throws over 15 yards in a game and not complete any of them was Deshaun Watson last week. So who are they going to lean on? I'm guessing the tight end. Too high of ownership on Ingram. I'll put a little 5 next to it. But again, I guess look, this ownership is definitely going to change. There's no way this is getting it's looking like the most popular game on the slate. If that's really going to be the case, I think there's just something wrong. I don't know why you pick this game as the game, but whatever. Moving on, going to talk about the Jets and Tennessee. Okay. I think this is a stay away game for fantasy outside of, look, historically it's not been the right thing to play running backs against Tennessee. But I do believe in Breece Hall's season that I think he's going to have. So I'm going to want to get a little bit of him pretty much every week. And I'm going to want a little bit of Garrett Wilson every week. In fact, I actually think this is this ownership's going to change. But I'll be happy to go overweight Garrett Wilson and try and find some value to make some of these guys fit in, because I do like the top end guys. I think Garrett Wilson's really good and going to have a big season. Let me just see where Lazard's priced. And let's not get fooled by the overwhelmingness of Lazard. I'm just going to put a 2 next year so I'm reminded that he's a man who exists. We'll see how much Mike Williams plays this week and what he ends up being projected for as the week comes to a close. But it was a weird game against San Francisco. Hard to judge that. But I do, look, they have the Packers connection with Lazard. I definitely am okay with taking some stabs there. Both these tight ends probably not going to make the list for me, just the way it's going. And don't really love this game in general for real life or fantasy purposes. I do think the Jets will bounce back and take down Tennessee in that one, though. Seattle and New England, really not. I have no idea what that question is, Duffy. Let's see, Brissett, Gino. This just feels like a stay away game in general. This maybe some Ramondre, or maybe some Kenneth Walker. But what are these ownership projections? I know it's early, guys, so just remember that the ownership projections are going to change. This is kind of ridiculous, to be honest. I did think that they looked a little bit vulnerable, but maybe you put 5% on these guys just for now, and obviously going to change it as the week goes on. But really not a game that I want to be a part of. Am I missing anything in this game that we can play? I don't think so. Maybe you could argue for Hunter Henry or Austin Hoop. No, I guess you could argue for these receivers every week. We got kind of disappointed by my JSN last week. Why is he not showing up with the ownership at all? It's just catching up. So just remember that. I'm going to keep refreshing it. Literally every hour, it's probably going to get a little better. But I do like to do these shows early just so we can get a first look before we have everything figured out. And anyway, let me get back to where I was. yeah, just really, again, I always want to be overweight guys like Metcalf with a ceiling. I always want to be overweight. I do believe this is the JSN year, but like I don't love anything about this specific situation. I do think New England has a really strong defense, and they showed it off week 1. I'll tell you that. Patriots looking like, okay, I can talk myself into either of these defenses. I'm just going to put a little 2. I guess that's the highest level of interest I have in this. Maybe I'll put a little higher than 2. Well, I'll go 2. And remember, I think that once they start playing Drake May, I just think Jacoby Brissett is competent enough to manage games and keep you competitive. At least while look, they're 1-0. They're gonna try to win games. So anyway, love this game in general. It is a little frustrating. I'm a huge Rams fan. I love the Rams. I loved what Kupp did the other night, and I know without Nakua made it a little bit easier. But I did say before the season my hottest take was that Kupp was going to lead the league in receiving and receptions. I know it was a very hot take. He looks great. I am going to be all over different parts of this game. I'm a little annoyed the Rams don't have a take the top off the defense guy though. We need a jetter. We need somebody who's like a good one, not these other Ty Johnson. We need a real one. This is too good of a team to miss out on this opportunity. Like both these guys against each other. Again, and maybe I'll get a little bit higher as the week goes on. But I really like the game, and I do love the Kyren Williams play this week. We'll just put him at 30 for right now. I also think James Conner is firmly in play. This ain't the same run stopping defense it used to be. There's no Aaron Donald in that locker room. I hope my Rams bounce back, but I would like to be overweight the Conner in the meantime. We saw him actually, he looked pretty good against Buffalo and looked pretty spry. Again, Kupp is one I'm going to be the highest on this week. I know he's going to have ownership. It's not going to be as high as it's projected right now, but I am going to mark him as if it was because I do want to be overexposed. I'm going to have take the occasional stabs just to get overweight guys like Harrison, who I believe in the long run. Greg Dortch, they looked for a lot. I was just hoping he'd be a little bit cheaper. I think Michael Wilson, you could make a case for in just game stacks. I'm just going to do this because I like the game, but outside of Kupp and Kyren Williams and to some extent Conner, it's not like there's like obvious things that you love. And look, this ownership is going to change. I promise as the week goes on. Again, I want to get overexposed, so we'll do this now. But I do think that Trey McBride, another spend up at tight end, it's going to be contrarian to do that. I'm going to have a hard time doing it with my always having a high end receiver, situation. But I do think tight ends have some big upside guys this week. McBride, I mentioned, or who did I mention earlier that I really liked? Oh, I really liked Laporta this week. So again, good game to stack though. I do have the Rams in Arizona as one of the very stackable games for me this week. All right, moving on to Cincinnati in Kansas City. This is another game that I have interest in, especially if these ownerships end up staying anywhere near true. Cincinnati's played KC very, very tough. Sort of took, we might have already seen KC, with like 4 titles. If that one playoff game goes a little bit different, because the Rams were gonna have a hard time with that KC team that year. And Burrow beats them. They play each other tough. I do think Cincinnati bounces back, not necessarily wins the game, but does play competitively. And I think there is some upside here for all these guys. So I'm going to get some Pacheco. I'm going to probably end up just dabbling with these other running backs. But where I really want to go after is I do want to go after Jamar Chase. I do want to go after, I don't know which one of the receivers. It would be Rice. It's going to be Rice. So I'm just going to go with that for right now. Obviously, we've got Kelsey at tight end. I'm not in love with Kelsey early in the season. I think they're going to manage him a lot more this year. So maybe this game is not quite as exciting as I thought it was at first glance, but because it's kind of hard to find the exact plays. But I definitely want to have, I guess, more than what we're currently projecting the field at anyway. We'll see about T. Higgins, whether he plays or not. That will determine a little bit of what I do. Because if he's out again, I'll take shots on Yosevich. And maybe, I don't know if I want to do with Trenton Irwin. If he's out, it feels a little fringy. Maybe like for a 2-game slate or something like that, or maybe for the afternoon slate. All right, look, I don't care. Take my money, whatever. They used him as a game manager week 1. What if they get behind? He's 5,400, Justin Fields. You're talking about a minimum cost for a guy with the highest rushing upside of any quarterback on the slate, probably outside of maybe Lamar. Oh man, I don't know. I want to be overweight. I don't know who to even play him with or what I'm going to do. I guess it's Pickens, but I don't really love anything else here. I just want to be overweight that situation. There's going to be a couple weeks that Justin Fields wins somebody all the money, and I would like it to be me. So I do like the Pickens play quite a bit. Cortland Sutton's the most logical I can find on the counter, but not like in love. Again, getting sprinkles of it. Freiermuth, I think, is firmly in play. I'll put him. Let's put like an 8 next to him. Don't think I can get to Dulcich. Not going to play Parham, and that's pretty much it. So, I'm going to go through and make up all my core plays and all that stuff in a little bit, and fine tune my ownership and all that stuff. And by Saturday, I'll be posting, or very, very early Sunday, I'll be posting all my plays for the weeks and all that stuff. I do share everything that I'm doing. So if you've been tailing me in baseball, hopefully you've been betting against me, because I have not been on fire in baseball. But had a really good year last year in football, and pretty consistently do very well there. So I would love it if you guys would wanted to check out some of the things. I share everything I'm doing basically exactly. I don't show I show all my exposures and all that stuff. I show my early builds, but then I change things a little later on. And yeah. Anyway, guys, we appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Please give us the like, the thumbs up. Hope everybody has a wonderful football week. We will be live at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we will be live for Showdown on Thursday at 6:45 p.m. Eastern time, right after baseball. So that'll be me and Brandon Cruz for that one. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for all your guys' support, making TrueDFS such a great company to be a part of, and really happy with what we're doing here.